Have you ever walked into a room and forgotten why you went in? Or struggled to recall a name that used to come so easily? Maybe you've noticed your thoughts aren't quite as quick as they once were, or you feel mentally foggy at times during the day. If so, you're not alone. Many seniors experience these moments and quietly wonder, is this just aging, or is it something more serious? The truth is, our brains do change as we get older. Memory, focus, and mental clarity can all be affected. But here's the good news. While we can't stop the clock, we can slow down the effects of time on the brain, and even better, you don't need a doctor's prescription, expensive supplements, or fancy equipment to do it. What you need is just one simple habit done each day that helps protect and even rejuvenate your brain, starting now. In today's video, we'll uncover the surprising science behind brain aging, what most people accidentally do to speed it up, and the one daily habit that has been shown to help keep your mind sharp, focused, and young, even well into your 80s and beyond. You'll also hear the real-life stories of people who have used this habit to regain their memory, lift their mood, and feel mentally alive again. And don't worry, it doesn't involve puzzles or math homework. If you've been worried about memory loss, mental decline, or just want to stay mentally strong for the years ahead, this video is for you. Because keeping your brain young isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. I know you are a person who likes to watch videos quietly. If you have not liked and subscribed to the channel, now is a good time to do it because you are a kind person. If the video is helpful, press 1. If the video is not good enough or needs improvement, press 2. Thanks everyone. Now let's get started. Number 1. Why the aging brain becomes slower. When Ruth turned 72, she started to notice something subtle but unsettling. She was still active, socially engaged, and loved reading mystery novels. But little things began slipping through the cracks. She would pause mid-sentence trying to find the right word, forget the names of people she'd known for years, and sometimes walk into a room without remembering why she went there in the first place. I felt like my brain was a few steps behind me, she said quietly. I was still me, but slower. Ruth's experience is shared by millions of older adults around the world. And while these changes can be frightening, they're also deeply human and more understandable than you might think. As we age, our brains naturally go through changes, just like the rest of our bodies. But contrary to what many believe, these changes are not always signs of disease or something to fear. They're part of a process, one that we can understand and even influence. So what's really happening inside the aging brain? First, one of the most common and natural effects of aging is a slowdown in blood circulation, especially to the brain. The brain relies on a steady flow of oxygen and nutrients delivered through the bloodstream. As arteries become stiffer and less flexible with age, that flow can become reduced. With less oxygen, the brain's ability to process information quickly starts to decline. This isn't necessarily a sign of dementia. It's simply a slower delivery system that impacts reaction time, memory retrieval, and focus. Another key factor is the loss of neurons. While the brain doesn't shut down as we age, it does gradually lose nerve cells, particularly in areas related to memory, like the hippocampus. Think of it like a city losing traffic lights one by one. Communication still happens, but it's not as smooth or as fast. At the same time, the connections between neurons, known as synapses, also shrink or weaken. So even if the information is there, the speed and clarity with which it moves can be reduced. Inflammation is another hidden player in brain aging. As we grow older, low-grade inflammation becomes more common in the body, often due to stress, poor diet, lack of sleep, or chronic illness. This inflammation can reach the brain and disrupt normal function, making it harder to concentrate, remember, and stay mentally sharp. Scientists even call this process inflammaging, the inflammation of aging. And it's something we can learn to calm through lifestyle choices. Also, the brain's plasticity, its ability to adapt and form new connections, becomes less active with age, but not gone. In childhood and youth, the brain is constantly rewiring itself in response to learning, experience, and challenge. As we get older, if we stop engaging the brain in meaningful ways, it gradually stops building new pathways. Like a muscle that isn't used, it weakens not because it must, but because it's underused. Lastly, hormonal shifts and changes in sleep patterns affect the aging brain. Melatonin, which regulates sleep, and dopamine, which impacts motivation and pleasure, tend to decline with age. Poor sleep, in particular, robs the brain of its chance to clean up cellular waste and reinforce memory, leading to cognitive sluggishness during the day. When all these factors combine, slower blood flow, loss of neurons, weaker connections, inflammation, reduced plasticity, and disrupted sleep, they create a very real sense of mental slowdown. But here's the good news. The brain is remarkably resilient. It continues to adapt throughout life. Even in your 70s, 80s, or 90s, your brain can form new connections, strengthen existing ones, and regain clarity, if you give it the right conditions to thrive. Ruth's story didn't end with frustration. After learning more about how the brain works, she began introducing small, daily practices into her life. Reading aloud for 10 minutes, journaling in the morning, doing puzzles, and learning new songs on the piano. Within weeks, she felt sharper, more confident, and more connected. "My brain just needed a little attention," she said with a smile, "like a garden that hadn't been watered in a while." In the next section, we'll explore exactly how powerful your daily habits can be, and why the small choices you make each day might have a bigger impact on your brain health than you ever imagined. Number 2, the link between brain health and daily habits. For years, David, a 75-year-old retired engineer, believed that his brain health depended entirely on genetics. His mother had dementia, his uncle too, and he figured there wasn't much he could do to escape that path. "It's in my blood," he used to say. But something changed when he started reading about how lifestyle, not just biology, plays a major role in brain aging. What he learned surprised him, and eventually it changed his life. He discovered that while genetics may load the gun, daily habits often pull the trigger. Modern science now shows that the brain is deeply responsive to how we live every day. The food we eat, how much we move, whether we socialize or isolate, the quality of our sleep, how we handle stress, and whether we continue to learn and challenge ourselves. All of these factors directly influence how the brain ages. Your brain is not a fixed organ. It's a living, dynamic system that reshapes itself daily based on what you do, think, and feel. One of the most powerful discoveries in recent years is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to grow new connections and strengthen old ones at any age. This means that your brain can adapt and improve even in your 70s, 80s, and beyond, as long as it's being stimulated in the right ways. But just like muscles weaken when not used, the brain also begins to atrophy when neglected. A passive lifestyle, long hours sitting, watching TV, avoiding social engagement, sends a signal to the brain that it's no longer needed at full capacity. As a result, memory fades, processing slows, and motivation drops. David began to change his thinking when he came across a study showing that older adults who engaged in regular cognitive activity, such as reading, writing, playing music, or learning something new, had significantly lower rates of cognitive decline than those who didn't. Even better, it wasn't about doing complex mental exercises. It was about consistency, showing up every day for your brain, even in small ways. It turns out that small, meaningful habits, like journaling for 10 minutes, walking in nature while reflecting, doing a crossword puzzle, or simply calling a friend for a good conversation, are not just good for the soul, they're brain fuel. These actions promote blood flow to the brain, lower stress hormones, increase oxygen delivery, and activate the regions responsible for memory, attention, and problem solving. Sleep is another daily habit that has enormous influence over brain function. While we sleep, the brain performs maintenance tasks, clearing away waste products, consolidating memories, and recharging its energy. Poor sleep, especially over long periods, can directly impact mental clarity, emotional stability, and even increase the risk of Alzheimer's disease. That's why winding down at night, turning off screens, and establishing a calm bedtime routine can make your mornings and your mind feel sharper. Even how we handle stress plays a role. Chronic stress produces inflammation and floods the brain with cortisol, a hormone that, in high amounts over time, can damage the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory. But when you incorporate habits that reduce stress, like deep breathing, mindfulness, prayer, or spending time in nature, you give your brain space to heal and thrive. David decided to create a brain health checklist for himself. It included reading for 15 minutes each morning, writing down 3 things he was grateful for, taking a 20-minute walk after lunch, and calling one friend or family member each evening. After just a few weeks, he noticed he was remembering names more easily, finishing his sentences with more clarity, and feeling emotionally lighter. "It's not magic," he said. "It's maintenance." Your brain doesn't need perfection. It needs attention. The choices you make today, no matter how small, can protect your memory, improve your focus, and slow the aging process more powerfully than any pill. In the next section, we'll explore what many people are doing that actually speeds up brain aging, even without realizing it, and how to spot the habits that may be doing more harm than good. Number 3, what most seniors do that speeds up brain aging. When Ray retired at 68, he was relieved to finally have time to rest. For the first few months, he enjoyed the slow mornings, long afternoons in front of the TV, and freedom from a daily schedule. But over time, something shifted. He found himself forgetting things more often. Names, appointments, even why he'd walked into a room. He started losing interest in reading and often felt tired, unmotivated, and slightly off. He assumed it was just age catching up. But what he didn't realize was that many of the new habits he had adopted, though comforting, were actually accelerating the aging of his brain. This is a common and often silent issue for many older adults. After decades of hard work and structured living, retirement or a quieter lifestyle can bring the temptation to slow down completely. And while rest is important, too much mental inactivity can send a message to the brain that it no longer needs to stay sharp. In fact, the human brain is wired for stimulation, challenge, and connection. And when it stops receiving those inputs regularly, it starts to shrink both figuratively and literally. One of the most damaging habits that many seniors fall into is excessive passive screen time, such as watching television for hours on end. While TV may seem like a harmless way to unwind, it's mostly a one-way form of stimulation. The brain becomes a passive observer rather than an active participant. Over time, this lack of engagement leads to weakened attention span, reduced memory recall, and slower information processing. Unlike reading, conversation, or puzzles, watching TV doesn't challenge the brain to think, reflect, or solve. Another brain-aging habit is social withdrawal. After retirement, a spouse is passing, or adult children moving away, many older adults begin spending more time alone, often without realizing how deeply it affects their mind. Social connection is one of the most powerful ways to stimulate the brain. Conversations, shared laughter, storytelling, and even simple interaction with neighbors or a cashier at the store help keep language, memory, and emotional regulation strong. Loneliness, on the other hand, has been linked in countless studies to faster cognitive decline, increased risk of Alzheimer's, and even earlier death. Many older adults also unintentionally harm their brain by sticking to routines that never change. Doing the same thing in the same way every day, while comforting, deprives the brain of novelty, which it craves. The brain loves variety, challenge, and new learning. Something as simple as taking a different walking route, learning a new word, or trying a new recipe stimulates neural pathways and keeps the brain adaptable. Without new input, the brain's plasticity fades, making it harder to learn or recover from memory loss later on. A poor diet is another silent contributor to brain aging. Many processed foods, sugary snacks, and refined carbs can cause inflammation in the body, and that inflammation often reaches the brain. High sugar diets are particularly harmful as they've been linked to insulin resistance in the brain and impaired memory function. Yet many seniors rely on convenience foods because they're easy, quick, and familiar. Without realizing it, they may be feeding their brain exactly what accelerates decline. Sleep is another area often overlooked. As people age, sleep can become more fragmented, and many assume this is simply part of getting older. But chronic poor sleep reduces the brain's ability to clear toxins, process memories, and regulate mood. Some seniors stay up late watching TV, nap too long during the day, or drink caffeine late in the afternoon, not realizing these habits disrupt the delicate rhythm the brain depends on to function well. Lastly, the absence of mental challenge speeds up brain aging more than people think. When you stop learning, stop being curious, and stop challenging yourself, even in small ways, the brain starts to downsize. It operates on a use it or lose it basis. Unfortunately, many seniors are told or believe that mental decline is inevitable, so they stop trying altogether. But this belief is not only untrue, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Ray's experience reflects a pattern that many people go through without even realizing it. But once he learned how his habits were affecting his brain, he made a shift. He began reading the newspaper aloud each morning, taking short walks where he tried to memorize details of his surroundings, and calling his sister twice a week to talk about old memories and new ideas. Within a month, he felt more focused, sharper, and emotionally lighter. "I didn't need to do anything fancy," he said. "I just needed to wake my brain up again." If you recognize any of these habits in your own life, too much screen time, social isolation, lack of new challenges, don't be discouraged. The brain doesn't punish, it responds. And that means it's never too late to reverse the effects of disuse. In the next section, we'll introduce a simple daily habit that research shows can help protect your memory, strengthen your mind, and give your brain the nourishment it's been quietly asking for, starting today. Number 4, the daily habit that keeps your brain. Young Margaret, 80, had always been an independent woman. She loved taking care of her garden, writing letters to her grandchildren, and reading mystery novels by the window. But over time, she noticed that words didn't come to her as easily. Her once sharp recall of birthdays, recipes, and neighborhood gossip began to blur. At first, she laughed it off. "It's just old age," she'd say. But a quiet worry settled in. Was her mind slipping? Then one day, her daughter suggested something unexpected. "Why don't you start writing again, Mom? Even just a few lines a day." What began as a reluctant scribble turned into a daily habit that changed everything. Within weeks, Margaret felt more clear-headed, more alert, and more in touch with herself. What she didn't realize was that she had tapped into one of the most powerful tools for brain health: active daily mental engagement. Science shows that just a few minutes of focused cognitive activity each day can significantly slow brain aging, and in some cases, even reverse early signs of decline. One of the most effective forms of this activity? Reading, writing, and reflecting. When you engage in these simple mental tasks regularly, you stimulate regions of the brain responsible for memory, attention, language, and decision-making. And the best part? You don't need to be a novelist or a scholar. All it takes is a notebook, a pen, or a good book, and the willingness to show up daily. When you write, whether it's journaling about your day, expressing gratitude, jotting down a dream, or composing a letter to someone you love, you activate neural pathways that link thought, emotion, and language. This integration builds stronger connections between brain regions, much like exercising multiple muscle groups at once. Over time, these pathways become more efficient, supporting clearer thinking, better word recall, and sharper focus. Writing also encourages reflection, which enhances emotional regulation and builds resilience against stress, both of which are essential for long-term brain health. Reading offers another potent brain boost. When you read, especially material that interests or challenges you, your brain processes new vocabulary, follows narrative structure, and makes predictions, all of which stimulate memory and comprehension. Reading fiction can enhance empathy and creativity, while nonfiction strengthens knowledge retention and critical thinking. Even 5 pages a day can make a difference. But perhaps the most underrated part of this habit is how it promotes consistency and structure. When you set aside time each day to read or write, your brain begins to anticipate that stimulation. It starts the day expecting to engage. This mental warm-up keeps the brain flexible and agile, especially as we age. It's like taking your mind to the gym, not with heavy weights or intense workouts, but with thoughtful, gentle practice that builds lasting strength. Some seniors worry that it's too late to start a new habit like this. They may say, "I've never been a writer," or "I don't read much." But that's the beauty of this practice. It doesn't require skill, only intention. Margaret started by writing 3 sentences a day. Some days it was about her breakfast. Other days it was a memory from childhood. But within a month, she found herself writing paragraphs. Her mind felt clearer, her conversations more fluid, her confidence returned. This habit isn't just about protecting your memory. It's about reclaiming your voice, your perspective, and your inner world. It gives your brain something to do besides react. It creates, processes, organizes, and connects. These are the very functions that help delay cognitive decline, prevent emotional stagnation, and preserve your sense of identity as you grow older. You can begin this habit anytime, anywhere. Keep a notebook by your bed. Read a page or 2 while drinking your morning tea. Write a letter, even if you never send it. Reflect on what made you smile today. It doesn't have to be long or perfect. It just has to be yours, and it has to be done regularly. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into how this habit specifically boosts memory and focus, and why just a few minutes of engagement each day could be the best thing you do for your brain in the long run. Number 5, how this habit improves memory and focus. Samuel, 79, used to be known for his incredible memory. He could recall every birthday in the family, the lyrics to songs from his youth, and even specific moments from conversations years ago. But recently, he had started forgetting little things: where he left his keys, whether he had taken his medication, even the names of new people he met at church. It wasn't dramatic, but it was enough to make him uneasy. His doctor ruled out anything serious, and Samuel was relieved, but also left wondering, "So what can I do?" That's when his granddaughter suggested something simple: write in a journal every day and read out loud to himself for 10 minutes. It felt too easy to work, but Samuel gave it a try. What happened over the next few weeks astonished him. Not only was his memory sharper, but his thinking felt clearer, and he could follow conversations without losing track. The truth is, this small habit had reawakened his brain. Let's take a closer look at how reading and writing, even in short sessions, can have such a powerful impact on memory and focus, especially for aging adults. First, when you read or write, you are activating multiple regions of the brain at once. Reading engages visual processing, comprehension, memory recall, and imagination. Writing involves language centers, motor coordination, and emotion. When both activities are practiced together, such as reading and then summarizing what you've read, the brain is fully involved. This multi-layered stimulation helps strengthen neuronal connections, especially in the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory formation and retrieval. Scientific studies have shown that when older adults engage in regular, intentional cognitive activity, particularly those that require reflection, processing, or the generation of ideas, their brains respond by forming new synapses. These new pathways compensate for the natural loss of neurons that occurs with age. It's like building new roads when the old ones start to wear out. This means that memory doesn't have to fade simply because you're getting older. It can be maintained and even improved with the right type of use. Writing by hand in particular has been shown to enhance working memory, your brain's ability to hold on to and manipulate information in the short term. When you sit down and write a sentence about what you just did or how you feel, your brain is organizing thoughts, recalling details, and practicing clarity. These actions sharpen the very skills we tend to lose first with age: attention to detail, concentration, and short-term memory. Reading also helps build what scientists call cognitive reserve. This is like a mental savings account. The more you build it up over time, the more resilient your brain becomes in the face of aging or even illness. Reading challenges your vocabulary, exposes you to new ideas, and forces your brain to make connections between what you know and what you're learning. These are the same cognitive functions that keep you alert during conversations, help you remember instructions, and allow you to plan ahead. What's beautiful about this habit is that it also improves focus in a distracted world. As we get older, it can be easy to drift, to lose track of time, or to forget what we were doing. But sitting down each day, even for 10 minutes, to concentrate on reading a page or writing a short journal entry, trains the brain to stay present. Over time, this spills over into daily life. You find yourself paying better attention in conversations, remembering where you place things, or recalling details without hesitation. Samuel noticed this exact shift. After a few weeks of writing about his day each evening, he realized he was remembering his grocery list without writing it down. He no longer paused to remember people's names or forgot appointments. But more than that, he said he felt awake again, like his brain had dusted off the shelves and turned the lights back on. Another powerful side effect of this habit is emotional clarity. Writing helps us slow down our thoughts, process feelings, and reduce mental clutter. When your mind is less overwhelmed, your focus improves naturally. The brain has more space to work with, and distractions no longer pull you in so easily. If you're thinking, "I'm not a writer," or "I haven't read a book in years," don't worry. This habit isn't about talent. It's about practice. Start with one paragraph a day. Read one page aloud from a book you enjoy, or jot down 3 things that happened today. You're not writing for an audience. You're writing for your brain. And the payoff? A sharper memory, better focus, and the beautiful reassurance that your mind is still growing, still active, and still capable of clarity, no matter your age. In the next section, we'll explore real-life stories from older adults who adopted this habit and experienced remarkable transformations, not only in memory and mental function, but also in confidence, communication, and joy. Number 6. Real-life transformations from just 10 minutes a day. At 83, Lorraine believed her best mental years were behind her. A retired school teacher who once loved literature and conversation, she now found herself struggling to finish sentences, misplacing her keys, and repeating the same questions to her daughter without realizing it. "I thought this was it," she said. "That slow, frustrating decline everyone warned me about." Her confidence dropped. She avoided social events and stopped reading, telling herself that it was no longer worth the effort. But then her granddaughter, a speech therapist, gently challenged her with a simple question. "Grandma, what if you could get some of that sharpness back in just 10 minutes a day?" Lorraine chuckled, doubtful, but she agreed to try a small experiment. Each morning, she would write a short journal entry and read a page aloud from a book she once loved. That decision changed her life. By the end of the first week, Lorraine noticed she was forming her thoughts more clearly. By the second week, she stopped repeating herself in conversations. By the end of the month, her daughter said, "Mom, you sound like you again." What started as a tiny habit became a daily lifeline, a return to clarity, confidence, and connection. And she's not alone. Across the country, older adults are discovering the quiet power of this brain-boosting habit. Just 10 minutes a day of intentional reading, writing, or thoughtful reflection, and the results are nothing short of inspiring. Take Harold, 77, a retired bus driver who never considered himself book smart. After noticing that he was forgetting names and stumbling over words, he began writing down 3 things he remembered each day. Something he saw, something he heard, and something he felt. Within weeks, not only did his recall improve, but so did his mood. "I realized I wasn't forgetting as much as I thought," he said. "I just wasn't paying attention before." Writing made me notice again. For many seniors, this practice becomes more than just a memory tool. It becomes a way to reconnect with themselves. Writing down old stories, capturing family memories, or describing a walk in the neighborhood helps them feel more grounded, more present, and more alive. It gives meaning to each day. It tells the brain, "This moment matters." Another woman, Denise, 81, had battled anxiety and confusion after her husband passed away. She often felt disoriented in the mornings, her thoughts racing and unfocused. A friend encouraged her to start each day by writing a single sentence about what she was grateful for. At first, it felt forced, but over time, the sentences grew. She wrote about flowers in her garden, memories of her late husband, and the kindness of her neighbors. "It brought me back to myself," she said. "I stopped spinning. I started seeing clearly again." These stories show us something powerful. The brain is not finished simply because we've aged. In fact, many older adults discover untapped clarity, focus, and creativity once they begin exercising their minds again. Not with complicated puzzles or memory tests, but with simple human reflection. 10 minutes. That's all it takes. Even seniors with early signs of memory loss have seen improvements. George, 79, who had mild cognitive impairment, was advised by his doctor to begin a routine of reading out loud for 5 minutes a day and writing his thoughts immediately afterward. "It's like putting gas in the tank," he said. "I can feel my mind turning back on." The power of this habit lies in its consistency, not complexity. No one has to write a novel or read a textbook. All it takes is the willingness to engage, even briefly, with language, thought, and memory. Over time, those small moments add up, like drops of water smoothing a stone. If you're wondering whether this can really work for you, just start. 10 minutes may not seem like much, but for the brain, it's a full workout. And for the spirit, it's a reminder that you still have stories to tell, thoughts worth thinking, and memories worth strengthening. In the next section, we'll explore how you can make this brain-boosting habit stick, with simple, realistic tips to help you make it a part of your everyday life for years to come. So often we think of brain health as something beyond our control, something that slowly fades with time, no matter what we do. But what we've seen today tells a different story. The brain is not a machine that rusts and shuts down. It's more like a garden, alive, growing, and deeply responsive to how we care for it. And the most powerful care doesn't come from pills or perfect routines. It comes from small, meaningful acts done with intention, like writing one sentence, reading one page, or reflecting on one thought each day. This daily habit, simple as it may seem, has the power to strengthen your memory, sharpen your focus, and reconnect you with your sense of self. It reminds your brain that it is still needed, still growing, still alive. Whether you're 60 or 90, your thoughts still matter. Your stories are still worth telling, and your mind, even now, can continue to awaken and thrive. You don't need to do it perfectly. You don't need to do it loudly. You only need to begin, gently and consistently. A quiet morning by the window, a notebook in your lap, a few lines spoken or written from the heart. These are the moments that shape a healthier, more vibrant mind. Because staying mentally young isn't about doing more. It's about doing less, but doing it with love, attention, and presence. So take a breath, pick up a pen, open a book, and remind your brain and yourself that you are still very much here, and this new chapter is just beginning. Thanks for being here today. We hope this video gave you something useful or meaningful to take away. If it did, please like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We share new content each week focused on healthy aging, wellness, and practical advice for living well. Tap the bell icon so you'll be the first to know when a new video is released. We're glad to have you with us. See you next time.